All right, so diving into XRP today, we'll do an analysis for you guys, give you some data, give you a lot of research, and then also give you a sentiment analysis that we've done over the past year that shows a very interesting track for where XRP could be going. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. Let's get into it today. And this is all about some recent news, some recent findings. A lot of hubbub is happening in the legal sphere. I am not a lawyer, so that's the first thing you need to know. But I'm good at understanding legal speak. The reason is I'm, been in business for many years, and I've had a chance to deal with a lot of lawyers, and I've seen all of this stuff before. Also have seen and been part of some big cases of companies in this area. So it's interesting to me to watch how some of these things are starting to play out in the theme of what's happening with the SEC and, of course, XRP and Ripple. First story right here, former SEC. This one is kind of a little bit damning. First story talking about SEC officials. This is a former SEC official predicting that the regulator will essentially lose on the merits of the case. Now this, it could be a little bit of case of sour, milk, and maybe there's a person here that has worked as an individual within the SEC, understands the merits of how cases like this work with the Howey test, all of those kind of factors that many of us have been talking about for some time. For someone to be and have worked for the SEC to come in and basically say, yeah, not going to be the case. They go on to say, former executive, obviously, of the Securities and Exchange Commission believes that the regulator has a good chance of losing its $1.3 billion lawsuit against Ripple on the merits of the case. And this, of course, is attorney Joseph Hall, who has also voiced concerns over what the SEC's endgame could be regarding the high stakes. It'll have ramifications for the entire industry. And I think that's the big factor here. Whether you look at where XRP is from a company standpoint right now, whether you like XRP, you love Ripple, whatever the case may be, understanding what this might mean for cryptocurrency and digital assets. This could go into the NFT space as well. In the future, a lot is riding on how this is going to play out. And if you look at some of the people that have been kind of following this case for quite some time, Jeremy Hogan, he and his wife are attorneys, and they've been following the case for quite some time, analyzing a lot of the court documents, looking at how Judge Netbert is responding to certain kinds of requests, understanding all of the efforts of what, and they, of course, being attorneys, have been able to kind of outline for a lot of people that this case is really in a very critical stage right now. We may be nearing the end. Now, here it is, February. We thought a lot of this was going to happen last fall, end of last year, but here we are now going in technically into March. So there's a lot happening there, but the fun thing with Jeremy and his wife was his wife presented the case for Ripple. Jeremy was presenting the case for the SEC. She basically kicked his butt, but that's beside the point. He outlined it a little bit more in this article right here, which is really kind of interesting because I think there's a couple of things here that are very, very key in how this new data is being essentially interpreted. So Ripple received legal advice from the law firm Perkins & Coie. This happened during the time in which the SEC was looking at Ripple as violating basically SEC law. And Perkins & Coie said, this was 8 years ago, earlier, according to legal expert James Filan, who publicized the memos on Twitter, he basically said, hey, listen, although we believe that there is a compelling argument can be made that Ripple credits do not constitute securities under federal securities law, given the lack of applicable case law, the founders, meaning Garlinghouse and the founders of Ripple, should consider seeking a no-action letter from the SEC. And the interesting side of this is that there was outreach by Ripple. The SEC did not rule on it, and nor did they provide anything in terms of a no-action letter. Instead, what we were getting was a lot of doublespeak coming from Hinman and a lot of the SEC representatives at the time. Remember, most of the people at the SEC when this case was filed are no longer there. So all of that played into this, and essentially what they said in this is that with these kinds of additional documents being released, it only furthers the case for XRP, saying that, listen, we just didn't know that this, how would we know? You can't now, I know ignorance is no excuse for the law. If the law is in actual possession, meaning we understand exactly what the law is, because now it's still under interpretation, whether you look at the Howey test or how securities are going to be managed in the future around digital assets. So a lot moving in that space. The other thing, if you look at John Deaton, he's talking about a fairly bold prediction here. We've had John on our show before. He is the attorney that basically is the one that's representing all of the XRP holders that have essentially been damaged because of the SEC potential wrongful SEC case in this point. And what he's basically saying right here, prediction, the case against Garlinghouse and Chris Larsen is over. It was the day it was filed. There's no way the SEC can meet its burden. The SEC must prove two executives had actual knowledge that XRP was a security or was reckless in not knowing. And that in itself, based on what the findings are, and this was just done this week, February 22nd, yesterday, this tweet, based on the knowledge of what the new findings are, the release of these documents, even though there's only a handful of documents that came out, it furthers the case along of that the XRP team was not aware, even if that were the case, and they're not even admitting to that it was the case at that time. Now, can the SEC go in and restructure the the code, the legal code, to adjust to what a security means and adjust it to what, kind of modern times are, adjust the Howey test, look at some of things like that? Sure, that all could happen in regulation, but that would have to happen in terms of an act from Congress that would reestablish how these laws are put in place. So a lot really gets into play here around the future of this. He goes on to talk about Judge Netburn right here. Judge Netburn's decision on the motion for reconsideration will be the biggest decision in the Ripple case. I say that because I don't believe the motion will strike the FDN to a significant one, but because the judge isn't deciding whether Ripple had fair notice, but only whether it can argue it. So the whole point he's saying here is that Judge Netburn is really at a point right now where a decision could be made on whether or not they would even see that they had fair notice. Meaning, if you don't know that this is wrong and there's no law to say that it is wrong, how would you ever know that it is wrong? You kind of get the point here. It's a very confusing, and I think the point that Deaton's making is that this thing has been just, it's been a show for a while. And I think whether or not this rolls out in favor of Ripple, the one thing it is doing is it's not like making the SEC look very well. So anyway, I'm going to jump to a couple of other things in here. And before we get into some detail on the sentiment of XRP and also how this might play out into the price, I want to thank our sponsor, which is Virez Finance. And the way Virez works is pretty simple. It's basically a platform that enables you to utilize the Waves token and also the V token to essentially stake your USDC and your assets if you want to go into Bitcoin or things of that nature, or even Tether. And you can utilize this as another way to essentially borrow or lend your stablecoins out and be able to gain some pretty big and significant gains. In fact, around 20% annual. So you could double it for what you typically see on some of the projects out there if you're just going out there and parking USDC. Anyway, you might want to check out Virez Finance. Just go to virez.finance. You'll be able to find more information about them in the link below. We'll leave a point there. And you can also learn how to earn basically protocol revenue in USDC and USDT and using either their V token and or just earning it back in the native token that you're staking for people to borrow. This is something that I think we'll continue to see in the evolution of yields. So I'm really interested in this category because yield in a bear market like what we feel like we're in right now, yields are going to be a big part of the game going forward. And it's also a very easy way for newbies and people that are just getting into crypto to understand how it works, to kind of get ready. So a lot happening in that area. I'm always interested in these kind of projects. Here's another story. XRP whales not holding back as mammoth accumulation spree nears $1 billion. This again just goes back to the point that we could be on the cusp of another big move for XRP. And when you look at the historical data that we're going to show you on the sentiment analysis and amplification analysis, you'll start to see a pattern that's appearing. It's very interesting. The other thing that was kind of cool is that Charles Hoskinson, who is the founder and creator of Cardano, this was at a recent conference. He basically said, hey, listen, we understand all this is happening, but really at the end of the day, there is an issue here that has to be addressed. And one of the things he says during the AMA, Cardano Charles Hoskinson also shared similar opinion with the exec, saying that the flip-flopping has fueled more ambiguity than ever before, arguing that it's unfair for the industry or for regulators to keep changing their stance. And this is the thing that I think any kind of business, doesn't matter if you're in cryptocurrency, doesn't matter the kind of business that you're in, legal ramifications apply to all business entities out there. But the one thing you need is clarity. And if you've got clarity, all businesses can either choose to do it right or do it wrong. The ones that do it wrong, they get slammed. The ones that do it right are fine. And that's the whole point. If you are flip-flopping back and forth, that's the situation that really creates a lot of instability in the marketplace. And I think that's one that will continue to probably plague the SEC, I think, for quite some time. So, big one. This is another thing right here. Ripple versus XRP showing strength in the legal fight. Another, again, a new evidence. This is what we're talking about. This only solidifies, this headline right here, solidifies the fact that we are seeing some pretty significant strength moves. And I think the interesting fact around this is that this has been going on for so long. So that to me is a little bit demeaning in the sense that we've spent a lot of federal money and a lot of money, taxpayer money, on doing something that essentially probably should have never been done in the first place. So a lot is going to be going in toward that. Big blunder. This is just reaffirming what Hogan was saying, and this was the video I was showing you earlier. Covers how the SEC filed a motion for the court to reconsider unsealing of the emails relating to the former SEC Director of Corporate Finance's Will Hinman's speech, which basically said Ethereum is not a security, hence the element of what was happening with Ripple, not a security. So the speech itself was the many drafts and comments by the SEC staff crossed different SEC divisions and office deliberating the agency's approach to the regulation of digital assets. And this shows that Hinman and other staff basically used the speech to provide public guidance. And that's where the rub pretty much hits. I think NetBurn is going to look at this, and they know this has been around, and now we're starting to see the validation of this starting to come out in additional documents, that this pretty much was the public statement, whether he was doing it on behalf of or not, the fact that he was a government official acting on behalf of the SEC in terms of that. He's giving guidance, and guidance is all you can go when there's no guidance in the books. So that's the big thing that they're trying to point to. Now, where does this all play out in terms of XRP's price? Because that's really what you're here for. And the likelihood is there's some elements that could map XRP back to $1 in the near term. This article kind of breaks into it. And the point is going to be a couple of things. We will see a little bit of a move, I think, in terms of a fractal and what this implication might mean. And basically what it's saying here is its price entered an accumulation phase from the 21st of Jan to February 5th. And during the period which the asset moved sideways but little no volatility, during this period the volume seemed to decline and dip while below the 100 moving average. As a dull in this phase was a breakout from resulted at a 40% ascent. Now that was the thing that I think is the fractal that they're talking about. And part of this is when we see something that doesn't have necessarily either big news or you don't necessarily have something that's driving it in terms of money action, you just have faith in a project, that's when you start to see these fractals start to appear. Now, one of the things that I think causes that is sentiment movement, and I talk about this all the time. And this, of course, is one of the driving forces of how we look at tokens, projects, and in general, overall data in the industry when it comes to sentiment. And the Crypto Power Index is one of the things that we use to drive into this. If you guys have never checked out our Crypto Power Index, if you're new to us, make sure and click the link below. It is the way that you can get to it. It's a very easy tool. We publish it every Monday, and we give you these kinds of updates. So what I did was I went back in here to the XRP chart, and I wanted to see, and this is on the daily, I wanted to see what happened at different points in time around sentiment when XRP was on the move. So you go all the way back here to November 19th of 2020. XRP was, of course, trading at around 28 cents, and it takes a massive move, and we had sentiment at 7108 with an amplification score of 7216. So essentially, we knew that that had a good idea that that was going to potentially occur. It, of course, drives up to its high at that point, which was around 72 cents, starts to fade, and then, of course, settles in again. Then we see a little bit of a climb up here, and then right here on April 3rd, 2021, XRP comes in at 74.11 on sentiment, and an amplification, a 2-point variance on amplification, 76.29, which anytime we see a 2-point variation or anything over a point, really, you see big potential opportunity. And in that particular scenario, we saw XRP literally skyrocket right to $1.92. A lot of volatility. It came back down here to right at 89 cents, resurfaced again at $1.79, and this was on May 7th. Then, of course, we know what happened in May last year. We started to see the fall off after the Bitcoin crash. And right here, again, this happened in July, last summer, on the 21st. We saw a 72.29 and another amplification score that overperformed. And the way amplification works with sentiment is amplification is more of a forward or a leading indicator on how potential price action could occur based on amplification of people talking about it, people either talking good, bad, indifferent about a particular project, or they intend to do something around a project. And when you look at that back here on the July 21st, this was hovering at 72.29, AMP was 73.09, and then it spiked right here to $1.38. So you can kind of see the chart right here. And this happened between July 21st and August 16th. So about a 3-week span there. A lot of sideways action for a while. We were following XRP all the way through the summer into the fall, and then we had the decline, because this essentially right here was in November when XRP was really at another high at around $1.30. Now remember, in November, Bitcoin hits all-time highs, all sorts of things are happening, but yet XRP did not respond the same way that it had responded back in May. And back to the chart, if you go all the way back here to April, which was the pre-run up to the $60,000 Bitcoin right there in April, and in May, this is when XRP really responded, and you saw that double-digit or double-point move on AMP. So you go all the way down here, and let me zoom up on this just a little bit to give you guys a little bit better look at where this is going. And you can kind of see where we are now. So again, a big dip right here on December 4th, 72 and a 68 falls. That's an amplification score that's way underperforming, and because of it, it paid the price, and that was a price of 38% on that drop when we saw that go. So that's fine, no problem. XRP is underperforming right now, and at that time, this was around February 2nd, and XRP was trading at around 57 cents. We saw the spike. XRP jumps up to 94 cents. We go sideways, and then we have this little movement right here. And what do we have? Again, 73.06 and an amplification score of 74.12. So could this be the spot with, based on what we're hearing from these findings, from these recent findings, based on the age and the potential settlement that could be in the wings, could XRP be coiling right now on its way to $1? So this is one I'm watching very closely, because it is one of those assets that is extremely volatile. Now remember, we do these market movers. The idea behind these, this is not financial advice, guys. What we're trying to do is paint a picture here to give you the research chops to go out and dive into this a little deeper for yourself, make a decision whether or not you want to do something in this direction, and go into these kind of projects. That's the key. You've got to get out there and do the research, understand what you're investing in, always in any kind of scenario, whether you're doing it in crypto, stocks, bond, doesn't matter. You've got to understand the asset class and really kind of dive into that. But anyway, this gives you a breakdown of it. Hopefully this will help you guys in understanding the direction of where this is going to go. I like the future of where XRP and Ripple is as a whole. And if you haven't looked into Ripple as a company and you're new to crypto, first thing you need to do, set up your research weekend, start researching Ripple as a company and what they mean to the global financial system. Just do that, and your eyes will be opened, and you will have taken one of the pills. and we'll see which side you fall out on the other side. All right, you guys are listening in over on the podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate all the love over there, but this is the place you got to come. Make sure when you're here on the YouTube channel, the first thing you want to do is join in on the Diamond Circle. The Diamond Circle is a really cool spot. We drop a lot of information there. We do a couple of AMAs. We drop reports, guides. All of that's for free. You can also gain access to our CPI over there, which is a paid service, but you can get access to our sentiment data. All of that you can do and just sign up. The links are in below if you want to reach me. It's out on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.